Hello everyone and welcome back to another lesson, and today we're in a very special location because in fact today I have brought you virtually, as you are not here and I am, but okay, you get it, to my parents' house. Let's go. So the reason why I have brought you here, you shall see soon, there's a very specific prop located in the basement that I need for this lesson. But today's lesson is all about rechargeable batteries. See, we talked about batteries, we talked about how they work, Alessandro Volta and all of his wonderful discoveries which allow you to do many, many things. Smoke alarms, all those great stuff that run on batteries are all due to his invention. But eventually they got tired of, let's say you go and you have a battery and it's powering your very expensive device here, and then it runs out of power. You might as well just, not to worry everybody, it is perfectly fine, just a few scratches and yeah, we're good. Anyway, fortunately for all of you who are watching this probably on a laptop with a rechargeable battery, there was a French physician by the name of Gaston Panté, which is by far the most French name we've seen this year. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing his name, go figure it out. Anyway, what he did is he figured out that you can recharge a battery. And what he did is he took 2 layers of lead. He took lead and he actually took lead oxide, and he put sulfuric acid in the middle. And he wanted to make this in the most efficient way possible. And so what he actually did is he took these materials and he put them in a spiral so they would fit into this drum. And in between the lead and the lead oxide, he put this piece of cloth to act as our separator from yesterday, from the same idea of the battery. It's the same idea of the battery, but it can go the other way. And he soaked that in sulfuric acid, a sulfuric acid and water mixture, not pure sulfuric acid. That would be, well, useless, as you'll see. So what you would do is you would hook up the battery and it would do its thing and it would power, let's say, your, probably wouldn't be a flashlight because you kind of need a larger, it's kind of very large thing that he made here, but imagine you have your electric car from the 1800s, which was a thing. Here's a picture of one. So you hook it up to your electric car, you go and you drive through the cobbled streets with all the horses and people yelling at you for what on earth are you driving, and you get to your location, you get back home, now you're done. So now what do? So you take it and you run a current through that battery. And you know how we have a positive terminal and the negative terminal? And the negative terminal is where the electrons come out, and the positive terminal is when the electrons come back in, and that's your circuit. Now, if you have a rechargeable battery though, you can reverse that cycle, which means that you hook it up to an external power source, which back in the day was another battery, probably one made by Volta, because what other battery you're gonna have? And it takes that energy and it puts it backwards. It goes from the positive side and it goes back around the circuit, goes from positive back to negative. It goes this way on recharging, and it goes, what you call discharge, is when you're using the power. It goes from negative to positive, and from when you're charging it, when you are adding power to this battery, it's going from positive back to negative. So effectively what you're doing is reversing the process. So to illustrate this point, for those who are more visually minded and would like to see what I'm talking about, we are going to take a little jaunt down to meet the prop that I told you about. That's the reason for why we are here. So let's go check that out. Hey everybody. So we're at the basement, but the area that we're going to use is a little bit occupied. Want to see what's occupying it right now? Let's see. Yes, there is a chicken, and my brother in the distant background, on our surface here. So just give us 1 minute and we're gonna clean that up, okay? All right, here we go. So on the right side, we have the negative terminal. On the left side, we have the positive terminal. And as you can see, all the electrons, all the spare electrons, are on the negative side. But then, as we start transferring them over, as the current starts happening, the spare electrons, they move from the negative side to the positive side. Hold on, I'm going to go to pool cue, and then we can do this better. Go. And this is how a circuit goes. In a rechargeable battery, however, the materials are constructed in such a way that the free electrons from the positive side are able to be reversed. They are able to replenish the negative side with electrons from an external source. As you can see here, we are moving them all back. Now, in reality, they wouldn't get moved back. They would get moved on from somewhere else. And this can happen over and over and over and over again. So now I think we understand how a battery, and then a rechargeable battery, functions. You have the electrolyte floating in the middle. It splits into its ions. The positive stick to the positive terminal. The negative stick to the negative terminal. And then this circuit happens, and the electrons from the negative ions, because negative ions have extra electrons, right? They go and they travel through the wire, or as you saw before, they knock off bits of the wire, and then they travel to the positive terminal. And so now at this point, everything is happy, everything is done, and now there's no more electrolyte left in the middle because it's separated itself, it's stuck to either end, and it's got used up. And so at this point, there's no more power, there's no more reaction going to happen. There's no more splitting up of the electrolyte into its ions. It's already split into all of its ions, and in fact, it's no longer floating in the middle. See, in a lead acid battery, the kind that Gaston Panté, that guy, what he developed, there's sulfuric acid in the middle. Very strong, very corrosive, very dangerous. Don't stick your finger in it, you'll lose the finger, probably. Anyway, when it's fully discharged, there's nothing left in the middle of that acid. In fact, the only thing that's left is water. It's a mixture of sulfuric acid and water. The sulfuric acid is the electrolyte, and when it's fully discharged, that acid is then absorbed into the plates, the lead and the lead oxide of the battery, and there's nothing left in the middle. But sulfuric acid and, say, in our phones, lithium, has a very special property, and that is it can be reversed. This process can be reversed. It can get unabsorbed. So when you put a current through this battery that's now devoid of any charge, you actually can reverse the process. In the case of the acid, it comes out of the walls of the battery, and now it's back again. You can then use it again. Now this acid can then split back up into its ions, and then can be used to make more electricity. And we repeat the process again. There you have it. That's a rechargeable battery. However, you'll notice on your phone, in fact, if you go into the menus of your phone in general, there's a thing about battery health. See, this is not a perfect process. And what happens is that as this happens, as the let's say in the case of a lead acid battery, the acid goes into the walls, it comes out of the walls, into the walls, out of the walls. Not all of it goes out. Some of it's left behind. Some of it forms corrosion on the different nodes of the battery, mostly on the anode actually. And over time, that lessens the efficiency of the battery to the point that it no longer creates charge. And that happens gradually and that happens slowly, but you'll notice, I think my phone is currently at 80%. Let's check. One moment. Excuse me. My phone actually has 85% maximum capacity because as you charge it and you discharge it and you charge it and you discharge it, it starts messing up the nodes of the battery and they start building stuff up on them, and eventually you have to replace the battery. So in theory, you can have a rechargeable battery that will recharge forever. In practice, however, since there's gunk that gets built up, it stops functioning eventually. Almost very, very old phones the battery may have died. In fact, a while ago, I actually replaced the battery of my phone. You can replace the battery. You go to the mall, they pop open the back, they replace the battery, or you go, maybe depending on the newer phones, you have to go to the Apple store, and they replace the battery, which is fairly expensive, but they replace it, good as new, because it's a brand new battery. But that's just the idea that batteries eventually die. There's a couple ways to avoid your phone battery dying as fast, and one very easy way to do it is never let it get below a certain amount. If you allow the battery to die completely, I mean, it's fully discharged, that means all the electrolyte has been absorbed. So if all has been absorbed, which means it's empty, and then all that has to come out, that's a lot more wear and tear on the nodes. It's a lot more likely that there's gonna be corrosion built up on the nodes, as opposed to if it's not fully discharged. So if you keep your battery at a certain level, if you keep your battery at a reasonable charge, say if you don't let it below, say, 20% battery, you're much more likely for it to run much longer than if you keep draining it all the way completely, and then charging it up fully, and then draining it completely, and then charging up fully. That's a lot more wear and tear on your battery. Personally, I keep forgetting my charger, and then there's something wrong with the charging port. So I personally end up draining my battery completely, which probably is not the best thing to do. So that is my time, everybody. Thank you so much for watching and joining us today. We will see you all tomorrow.